Hello!
Hello AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Sigmar.
And in this video we're going to give you a little rundown of what we think of the Harry Potter miniature adventures game from Night Models. We've done a playthrough, which you can go and see. We did that on a live feed, and then we've also done an unboxing. So we're not actually going to talk about the contents of the game as such.
Yeah.
We thought we'd just run down, particularly with our Underworld's hat on, as to what we liked or didn't like about the game. And I guess it is the place to start is probably with the actual what you get for your money.
Yeah.
I mean, the core box with the add-ons from the Kickstarter thing is really quite a good value.
Yeah, 50 euros, I think.
55 euros, yes.
And you get the two boards, double-sided boards, you get 8 models, you get all the spells, all of the equipment, all of the potions, everything you need to play a game ever comes in this box.
Yes, so you won't, the other expansions, they have the character cards for themselves, but they don't have...
And the models, but that's it.
Yeah, they don't have any extra. You do get, for your 55 euros, really quite a good deal, I think. And then you also can add the Wizarding Duels Servants of the Dark Lord box as well.
Yeah.
They've gone off to kill somebody because they've got in there. And they cost about, I think they're 35 euros, so they cost a little bit more. But again, you've got everything you need in here to play with them straight out of the box. You just get the character cards in the box and you can go. Somebody put a comment on our video about it being a cash grab.
I'm not sure how.
I can't really see why it's a cash grab. I could sort of say, yes, it does. For some people, it gets to a point where it's a critical mass of there's so many models, and then I do feel like you might want to you kind of want to buy everything because you don't want to miss anything.
Yeah,
I don't like that about Kickstarter.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But I'm hopefully, I mean, although this game is on Kickstarter, Night Models are a fully functioning company that sell their other games in traditional methods. I'm hoping most of this stuff will appear later.
Yeah.
To pick up later, because if you buy this box, then I think you are going to want to add to it.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, you can have a lot of fun. There's a lot of combinations with the fighters that are in there. Just all the cards. There's a lot of combinations.
It's nice being able to play as Harry and Hermione and Ron and stuff, but really you want Mrs. Weasley. That's what you want. So you're gonna at some point you're gonna go and buy Mrs. Weasley and Mr. Weasley and the Dursleys. Absolutely. That's going to be a killer combination, I reckon. Yeah. But yeah, you're gonna want more wizards.
For me, I feel like you're gonna want your own Helena Bonham Carter, but. Each to their own.
Who killed who? That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I know.
But you're going to want to, at some point, change things up. You don't always want to play as Voldemort with the two, Death Eaters and
Death Eater 1 and Death Eater 2.
Yeah. There are just so many options out there. You're going to want to buy some, but this gives you a really good starting point for 55 euros.
The models are good. I think that's really what we're saying.
Models are well worth buying. And
is the game really good? Because a lot of you out there have got lots of models that are good already for different things, but you've got lots of models that are good.
Yeah.
Is the game any good? And I think, we obviously haven't had loads of time to play with them, really got into it in any depth, but I think it is a good, solid game.
I think that there are some the way they've changed some things versus other games out there that we've played a lot more of. I think some things they've changed are better and some things are maybe a little bit worse, but not game breaking. One of the big things for me is when you pick this game up, you get 4 models each, but you're dumped in at the deep end at that point, and you can read the rules and you can work out what you need to do, how you pick your spell book, how you pick your potions, and how you pick your equipment, and how you build your challenge deck. But you're completely left stranded at sea with no guidance on that. You're like, I don't know if this is good, is it bad, do these go well together, should I not be picking them, beyond is it against the rules? No, but does that mean it's a good choice?
I mean, arguably I suppose you could say that's the fun of finding out how to play the game. But I think, and they did say to me that they were going to give some guidance. I think a little bit of guidance is definitely needed, especially for newcomers to these types of games.
Especially if you've not played like Underworlds or anything like that. Having something just so you can open this box and go, okay, I've got Harry, Ron, Hermione, and the owl, and Ron has this item, and Hermione has that item, and these are my challenge cards.
And these are the spells I should use.
Exactly. Games Workshop did a thing in one of their boxes where they gave you a starter guide, which literally walked you through everything, and I think it could do with something like that.
Definitely could, because the challenge is, although it's simple in some ways because you have to have one of the 9 and you've got limited choice, it's really hard without playing the game to know what you might actually do. There was one card I picked because it sounded quite interesting, and then I realised that the condition that was required, I could because the other things I'd chosen, I could never do it.
Exactly.
Which is a bit rubbish when you're trying to play your first game.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that great. But I think once you get into it, you've got so many options with the spells and the cards that you've got a lot of replayability there, and interesting sort of tactics or whatever, but you've got to have a group of people who want to do that too.
Yes.
So I almost feel like the game does need a kind of easy mode, almost like a rivals mode for Warhammer Underworld.
Basically, here's a list of what to take.
Yeah.
If you have like the Dark Wizard box or whatever, take these models with these challenges and these potions, and that's going to give you a force that is good at this particular thing. And then you can just, you know what you're doing with it, you can then go and play it. I think if you're a bit more experienced with these things, and you are lucky enough to be with gamers who are more experienced with this, then you are going to be able to dive into it and, you know, work out all the killer combinations and stuff to your heart's content. But I feel like they need something that's for newer players or people who are a bit more casual and don't have that time.
Yeah, definitely. Mechanistically, once the boards are down on the table, it's pretty straightforward to play.
Yeah.
Like all these games, it takes a little bit while to find your way into, but actually you've only got 3 activations, so even less than Underworld, which is 4 activations. Still 3 turns, 3 activations. You've only got 9 turns effectively.
Yeah.
And
sometimes your turn might be, I'm going to move this character there.
Yeah.
And that's it. So
it feels a little bit harder to kill things as we've got it set up so far.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it feels a little bit like you say, well, actually, there's no point in me attacking. There's no point in me doing the fun stuff. I might as well just move over here.
Yeah.
Which is, again, maybe experience will take that away from us or make that better. But the fact that it isn't too complicated all the time is quite good for casual gamers.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, actually, it's fairly simple. I can see very clearly what I need to do.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice.
I really like the way they deal with the casting of spells, that you have a deck of cards, which I think like Malifaux and a few other systems use a similar process where you have a deck of cards. I like the fact that there are no dice. It's still fairly random because quite often to cast a spell you just take a card off the top of your deck and that's what you use, but you have a small hand of cards that you can then replace it with if you think I really need this spell to go off and I've just picked up a card that's rubbish, so I'm actually going to replace it with a card in my hand that's a killer. So that gives you some control over it, but it's still a little random. It's not something you can really stack in your favour.
But it never feels bad.
Yeah.
Partly because the combat is fairly non-fatal.
Yeah.
But if when you're doing it, like if you just can't roll well, you start to feel bad about it. But you don't have because you can manipulate it slightly, and because because your opponent can't manipulate it that much. You say you've got a little bit of control, and it never gets to, and because it's only like 1, 2, and 3, you never feel like, oh, if I just rolled a 6, I'd have been all right there.
Exactly.
You never had that. Or if I hadn't rolled a 1, I'd have been all right there.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you use Voldemort quite a lot. Voldemort is quite powerful, and actually, if you're playing against Voldemort, you kind of know there's not much point in targeting, not targeting him, because there's not much point in wasting cards trying to defeat him or trying to draw with him, because you just know I'm going to lose.
He's going to hammer me, so I'll keep my good cards.
Exactly.
I'll take that, and I'll do something else with my good cards, because then I know it's a bit more reliable.
One other thing I really like is the cards have their little secondary abilities.
Yeah, I was going to mention that,
And that means even if you've drawn something duff, unless it's a jinx card, but even if you've drawn something duff, there is a chance that you might get some sort of positive outcome.
Yeah.
So it might be like, I'm only adding 1 to this attack, which isn't what I needed, or I'm just not good enough to defend, so something bad's going to happen to me. But this enables me to refresh my power pool.
Yes.
Or give 2 extra to my power pool. So actually, I'm a little bit stronger than I was, even though I've just taken a fish to the face or whatever the spell has been cast.
Exactly, yeah. I do feel like new players to the game might look at it, especially if you watch our other video, and they might go, that's a lot of cards.
Yeah, because they literally did on the video.
It did, yes. John did, yes. John turned up and went, that's a lot of cards, and left straight away. But I think that's because you play with very few cards in your hand. Nearly everything's face up. All the spells you have in your spell book, as it's called, you could have 9 of those, and they all are face up because you can cast whatever you want whenever you like in your turn. Your potions, you get 6 of them, and again they're face up because you could use them at any stage when it's your chance to do so. So you could have quite a few cards just sitting there. Now, you don't have to lay them all out. You could just have them in little stacks. If you know what you've got and you've played that for a little while, you know, okay, I'm going to rule through
they
this.
have to be laid out, is they so your opponent knows. But I guess your opponent can ask you at any time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But yes, although it does look very complicated, you made the very good point that actually it's just like when you play Warhammer Underworlds, it's just like having all your cards in your deck laid out so people can see them. And so it takes a little bit more space, but actually, and it looks a bit more bewildering, but actually isn't.
And in the games we've played, it still fits in a 3x3 area, because we've got a 3x3 mat that we've been playing it on purely accidentally, but it has all stayed within that area.
And actually, I would argue that it's less cumbersome than Warhammer Underworld, because you're not forever sliding cards underneath the cards, and you don't put very many counters on. You do put some, but you don't. You don't have as many counters, and I don't know. It just seems a little bit. There's slightly less counter bookkeeping, even though you've got quite a lot of counters, and it's a slightly negative effect that the counters are all the same bloody colour.
yeah, that is one objection I do have to this game, is that all the counters, they have different symbols, but they're nearly all of them white and round and small, which means you punch them all out, you chuck them in the box, and then you're like, I've got to find 6 counters in this 50, 60, 100, however many there are. Feels like a million.
Yeah, you could probably, we obviously could arrange them a little bit better, but it's not ideal.
Even if you put each type in a baggie, you're going to end up with about 7 or 8 bags, and some of them are going to have like 3 tokens in. So it's a little bit frustrating. They could make them look a bit more, have a bit more differentiation, have the activation tokens be gold, have the Deathly Hallows ones, which is what you collect to score points and win effectively. They could make them black or something, I don't know.
In Underworlds, even now, I quite often feel, by the end of the game, I quite often feel bewildered. As I can't remember who's got what on their fighter card, and what all the bonuses stack up to. The way this game works, that never happens. So although you've got a lot of cards all over the place, you know pretty much what each person can or can't do. Because spells they can only really cast once, maybe they might be able to cast them again later, but you've never got loads of stuff going on your cards. It's a little bit of a learning curve, because they've got some keywords which refer to things in the rule book, which is a bit frustrating, because you've got to learn what all the keywords do.
And some of them can be very specialised, like Master of Death, which only Harry's going to have, or the Dark Lord, which only Voldemort's going to have.
Or Sauron, if he turns up.
Yeah, maybe. So I feel like some of those, I would have rather had larger character cards, a bit like you get from Marvel Crisis Protocol or something like that, and have all the text there in front of me, so you don't have to keep going off to a book for it.
Yeah, or, and you could do this yourself, but a sheet, you could just have a sheet with them.
A quick reference sheet, yeah, something like that would have been handy. Because, and this might be because we played Underworlds a lot, so we generally, and it's evolved over a long time, so we've had 7 years to learn these things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like there are as many things in Underworlds where we go, how does that work?
No.
What does that even mean? Because they're generally all more generic functions that lots of people have, whereas in this, again, you've got like, I've got the Dark Lord ability. What's that even do?
Yeah, so I think a sheet with them on, and then probably broken out into specific ones, and then more general ones would have been really helpful. And on the character card, it would have been helpful if they were a bit more specific. So you could have had like the general ones, like Beast and whatever, but like you say, Dark Lord just needs its own sections. Like you don't really need to be caught in there.
Only Voldemort has that ability, I'm pretty much sure. So it's like that doesn't need to be in the rule book. That needs to be on his card. But it's a small thing, and you could generate your own cheat sheet once you know I'm going to be playing with these ones a lot. You'll learn them anyway.
There are quite a lot of them though to start off with, and we kept finding them. Like, I found it. What's this one do?
It's nice that again. You buy the box, you download the rules from online, and that's it. So when you get one of the other sets later on that has a Hufflepuff in, there's a special rule for Hufflepuffs, but that's in the rule book. So you only buy the box, you get the character of the card, it will say Hufflepuff on there, and it's in the rules. Yeah. I'm going to stop saying Hufflepuff now.
Hufflepuff.
I do like the way Magic works. You choose your spells before the game, and anybody can cast them, and you can possibly cast them multiple times depending on what happens. So you're never in a position, which I think you can sometimes get in Underworlds, where you might have a character with certain equipment or certain abilities, and it's almost useless because they're in the wrong place. Whereas in this, you're like, well, anybody can cast. I can't think of a single spell off the top of my head.
Patronum.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, this might be a bad example. I'm not sure who else can cast that. If it's just Harry. But anyway, there is generally
Wingardium Leviosa.
It's Wingardium Leviosa. So there's always a way to say, I'm going to have this person cast that spell, because anybody can cast any of the spells.
True story, my wife used to work for Hermione Granger's mum.
Bloody hell, Harry.
Exactly, yeah, true story.
I like the fact that everything's visible. So apart from the spell cards, the power cards you have in your hand to help you cast spells, everything else is visible. So your challenges, you can see your opponent's challenges, you can see their spell cards. You don't even pick your potions until you've set up ready to go, and you can see what. So you can go, he's got Nagini. I know Nagini has poisons, so I'm going to get the
some sushi rice and a bit of.
It's not nigiri.
Oh, okay.
Not nigiri.
Right.
I also like the fact that all the fighters move the same and have the same number of wounds.
Nice and easy.
Nice and easy. Not
Apart
too
from
much
Hagrid.
around.
Rawk. There are probably others who
big.
don't. There are probably others who don't as well. Smaller
Yes.
ones, what have you. But yes, they do essentially all have the same. The same wounds.
There's a few things to change how far you can move. Some of the like Hedwig, you can move a little faster, and there's obviously ways to heal yourself both via spells and potions, which you'd expect. But generally, everyone moves 3. Everyone has 4 wounds, so you haven't got to worry about that aspect of it. There's a lot of other stats to sort of take in. The mastery, which tells you how many spells you can take at the start and how many any individual wizard can be casting at one go. You've got your cunning, which tells you how many power you get in your power pool, which helps you to empower your spells.
Managing your power pool is really important, quite a nice aspect of the game. There are different ways to put power in and take power out, and trying to kibosh your opponent by stealing their power. That's a really nice little side game, which I quite like about the game. One of the people who asked about us to do an in-depth dive into this was Henry, who comments a lot of stuff, but I think Henry is a good strategic tactical game player. And I'm afraid I don't feel qualified to say, oh yes, you'll definitely enjoy this because there's lots of depth. There's definitely, on the face of it, depth because you've got so many combinations. How it translates, I don't know over time. We just haven't played enough to know. But I think if you like Harry Potter, or your kids like Harry Potter, probably from about 10 upwards, I think there's no reason not to get this game. Maybe don't back the Kickstarters. I'm sure it'll end up in shops or at least directly available from Night Models. And some people have got some worries about Night Models and previous projects. I do feel like they've had some bad luck in the past, and I have actually had issues with them in the past too. But this seems to be this came to us very quickly. The models are lovely. And they seem to be much more on it. I think they've upped their game. The communication seems to be really good on it. So I'm hopeful.
The rulebook as well had already been updated online. The digital version had already had changes put in it, which we'd noticed and not even had a chance to feed back yet. So that does show that they are more responsive with this. So that's a good sign. I think that they're keen to keep this going. And in general, I think for a lot of maybe less hardcore gamers, more people might be interested in something like Harry Potter because they've seen the films and they've read the books and they've seen it on TV and all that kind of stuff. So they might feel a bit more interested in, I can play as Harry Potter and Hermione and all that kind of stuff, or I can get Mrs. Weasley at last, that kind of thing.
I do think it needs a slightly simpler mode for those people. That's where, please, Night Models, if you are watching this, please produce a easy
starter pack. Starter pack of challenges, spells, characters,
because I think
and stuff like
that's the hook to get everybody in. Because at the moment it's like, first before we start this, we've got to read these 98 cards and work out which ones are the best, and that is not for your casual gamer. That is not going to bring them to the table.
Now, the rule book's only like 30 odd pages long, so it's nice that the rules are pretty compact and there aren't reams and reams and reams of them. But it would be a bit like getting like several seasons of Underworlds in one go. Here are loads and loads of models, loads and loads of cards, loads of stuff, and you just sort of, me personally, I kind of shut down a bit and just go,
Here's your objectives. You need to choose 9 of those.
Exactly, yeah.
What?
So it can be a little overwhelming, and I think even for more seasoned gamers, it would be nice to have a starter set up. I don't know, we've mentioned it. It would be nice to have something like that, and I think that's possibly one of the only things missing from this game. The only other thing that I would change in this game is removing the coin toss at the start. But we talked about that before. You've got a dice, just roll a dice each, and whoever gets the highest
I don't
wins.
think it needs a dice in the box. Everybody's got a dice.
Exactly.
On your phone. My phone's not here, but you can
on your phone. You can even ask Alexa, flick a coin, anything like that.
I think this is fun, and I think at €55, it's a steal. Actually,
absolutely agree. And I think with all the other stuff that they're putting on the Kickstarter, which will hopefully be available afterwards, there's a lot of options there for people to go, actually, I really fancy getting that pack of models, and then you just buy the models, you get the cards, and you're ready to roll.
And if you're a hobbyist, the minis are great for painting, and it's I think quite a good introduction to it. Like if you want to get kids into painting, I feel like certainly my children, or my youngest, would be much more likely to paint a Harry Potter model than Games Workshop.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
He's not interested in that, but there's something for him to dive straight into.
If we haven't answered a question that you would like to have heard an answer to, then do stick it in the comments below. And
preferably in relation to the game, but you know, anything
really,
trivia, we're fine.
Favourite ice cream, stuff like that.
Whatever.
Stick it in the comments below, and we will do our best to answer it. And as always, please do like, subscribe, and ring that bell.
Absolutely. And if you do want to consider supporting the channel on Patreon, you can do that. There's a link in the description too.
So maybe we'll see you in Diagon Alley.
Oh.